Welcome to Rhinos and Aliens. Welcome, Rhinos and Aliens, to yet another episode of Rhinos and Aliens After Dark. This is episode 46. Thank you for joining the number one podcast crew in Western New York. And like always, for After Dark, we're going to give you as much news as we can, both locally and globally. Now, this is going to be a short episode just for the simple fact everybody's schedule is all over the place, and this is going to be the best that I can do without giving you false and rushed information. I promise you that over the next two episodes, I will give you more overall and better quality. So for my week, as any local Western New York knows, April 21st was a hot mess snow-wise. I'm going to get into the specifics next episode, but there's all these records that were breaking. I did a quick feed on Instagram. On April 21st, it is legit snowing in Buffalo. Like, what is going on right now? I came across a news story for London that just blew my mind. The mayor of London made misogyny a hate crime. A hate crime? And then the last thing is that I want to end my week with a quote. And it's from Dave Rubin, where he said, "Just because you see something on TV and it makes you feel a certain way doesn't mean that's how the judicial system is supposed to work." Another way to put it, just because something's on TV doesn't make it a fact. Just because something is not on TV or not out there makes it incorrect. And vice versa. It's the same thing. Now, getting into the shout-outs, more like just one shout-out, I want to shout out Locals Technology, Inc. It raised $3.8 million seed round, which should deliver ownership security, platform flexibility, and 3 times more revenue to content creators. The reason why I'm shouting this out, because wink, wink, Rhinos and Aliens is hopefully going to go to Locals. So if you guys want to support us and be able to help us actually grow what we hope Rhinos and Aliens can be, that is going to be where we're going forward in terms of paid subscriptions. Basically, think about it as another version, a rival to Patreon, but I think it is even more creator-driven than Patreon. Now, moving into corrections/additions, I fucked up from the last episode. New York State is the 16th, not the 15th state for legalizing weed. Demi Lovato's newest album was her 7th, not her 8th, so I was half correct. Biden was in office for over 60 days before his first official press conference. And then I want to add what I mentioned about Roy Williams and his greatness. So listen to these stats. Both as North Carolina and Kansas's coach, he went to 9 Final Fours. He was a 2-time AP Coach of the Year. He won 9 ACC regular season titles. He won 4 Big 12 regular season titles. He was 2-time ACC Coach of the Year, 3-time Big 12 Coach of the Year, 4-time Big 8 Coach of the Year, and his record when he retired, 903 wins, 264 losses. Top 10, one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time. And if you want to get into what he did off the court for his players, easily top 5, you can make a case for top 3. So on or off, legendary. Now moving into Buffalo news. This is about the lead piping in Buffalo, since it's such an old city. I just want to get into some stats. Some 100 miles of lead service lines supply water to homes in Buffalo. President Biden's sprawling $2 trillion infrastructure bill, a $45 billion promise to replace all lead service lines in the country. So of the $2 trillion, $45 billion is going to lead lines, which for a lot of the older cities has not been done. Perfect example, look at Flint, Michigan. Now, when it comes to the city of Buffalo specifically, replacing all of the city's lead water pipes will cost somewhere between $350 and $500 million. So just one city, potentially $500 million. You could see why the bill allocated $45 billion to just this one aspect of infrastructure in the United States. Okay, so leading back to 2016 with the situation with Flint, Michigan, Buffalo wasn't satisfied with the federal standard for the supposedly safe drinking water. They believed it wasn't stringent enough, so they took their own lead and they only allowed and supposedly still only allow a third as much lead as the feds deem acceptable in our drinking water. Now, supposedly, back in 2016, Buffalo was the first city to implement such a standard, and they're still one of the most consistent when it comes to this standard, supposedly speaking. Just so you guys know, I'm going to have more Buffalo news next episode. It's just, as I was doing this, there's a lot of information trickling out, and I did not want to rush any information. I want to get the full spectrum of other Buffalo news information, and there's quite a bit. I just wanted to get my head around it. Now, moving into politics, just like with Buffalo news, I will have a vast amount of information for the next 2 episodes that were spread out. I just want to make sure that when I'm giving you this information, it's as unbiased as possible. And to give you unbiased information, you need to read as much information and gather that information from both sides of the spectrum. And I need time, because over the past week and a half, a lot of stuff has come out. And I just need to digest that as well. But the quick highlights: Derek Chauvin has been convicted on all 3 charges. All 3 charges. Yet another white on black cop shooting has been turned into a political agenda rather than actual unbiased media reporting. And I'm discussing the black on black altercation with the steak knife. I will get into more information about that, and I will give some bias why I believe one side is more correct than the other. Now, moving into video games, we got some video game information. The PlayStation 5 in the UK has already sold more than the Wii U, the PlayStation Vita, and the Sega Dreamcast. Just to put this in perspective, 5 months. 5 months. It's already outsold those consoles. Those aren't the best-selling consoles, but still, it's perspective. Naughty Dog is reportedly working on the Last of Us remake for PlayStation 5, while simultaneously Days Gone 2 is no longer happening. And just to give perspective, the original Last of Us wasn't even released a full 8 years ago. Wasn't even released a full 8 years ago. Let that sink in. And we're getting a remake for the PlayStation 5. Bend Studio almost got absorbed, aiding on the 5th main Uncharted title. It appears that there's a big shift towards AAA games with less space for smaller projects and teams, which does explain what's going on with the Japan studio and that whole situation. Spider-Man Miles Morales has already outsold both The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima Lifetime in the US, despite launching months later. The power of Spider-Man. If Spider-Man 2018 didn't prove that, then Spider-Man Miles Morales truly is. The NPD announced the PlayStation 5 is the fastest selling console in the first 5 months in US history, both in terms of dollar and units sold. Somehow, even though we were in a pandemic, we're technically still, certain areas of the country and the world are in lockdowns. The PlayStation 5 is the best-selling console, at least stateside. Moving into sports now, we have some UFC and we have some NBA. I will get into a lot more NBA over the next 2 weeks, specifically when it comes to the Warriors and Curry, because the whole rebound and reversal, holy freaking shit, man. Fight night, April 10th. Marvin Vettori wins the 5-round decision versus Kevin Holland. This is the thing. Kevin Holland won 5 straight matches, all 5 in 2020, yet he started 2021 on a 2-match losing streak, and he's obviously winless. So talk about the complete opposite, roles reversed. I don't think this is cockiness. This is just more so the the cowboy effect, Donald Cerrone, where Holland is a fighter. 2 weeks to prepare, 2 months, 2 years. He wants to fight, and he's going to fight. And I think 2020 gave him overconfidence, not cockiness, but overconfidence that he can consistently do this. And I don't know if mentally or physically it's taken a toll on him. Now, when it comes to Fight Night April 17th, Andrei Arlovsky gets his 31st victory in a 3-round decision. And, he just keeps cranking. By the way, I didn't get a chance to look up the specifics, but his name keeps going higher and higher in the UFC record books, both for his division and just overall records, in terms of matches, in terms of victories, in terms of types of victories. Robert Whittaker winning his 24th match in a 5-round decision versus Kevin Gastelum. And, man, I am looking forward to that rematch with Whittaker versus the Style Bender. Now, moving into the NBA, just like with a lot of the other stuff, I will get further into this over the next couple episodes, but KD is still out for the Nets, or compared to the last episode, he is out for the Nets. Harden aggravated his hamstring, so now his timeline for return is extended. If they win the chip, most impressive chip in history in terms of how long they've played together, and if they don't win the chip, it won't be surprising now. Both of these injuries also continue the trend this year where at the end of the day, the MVP might solely win because they played the most games compared to the counterparts. Look at Curry. As great as he is only in the MVP discussion now because of all the injuries to the previous MVP candidates. And nice segue. Segueing to Curry himself, he has legit willed himself back into the MVP race. And if you don't consider him, I don't know how, when he broke the NBA record, the 9-year-old record by Kobe Bryant, for most consecutive 30-point games in NBA history for a player 33 years or older. Let's make this clear. For any player, you're putting up 30-plus points in 11 straight games. That's impressive. You're 33 years old. That's even more impressive. The fact he's making it look like every player should be doing this is what's making it so crazy. And next week, I'm going to get into the specifics, but all the records he's breaking from 3-point makes, 3-point percentage, points per game, field goal percentage, effective field goal percentage, how he's also still hitting 90+% from the line. Technically, over this streak, it's some crazy 55, 50, 91. I'll get you the specific stats next week, but this is why Curry is hands down the best shooter of all time, and he might be the most dangerous scorer just because what you have to defend in terms of length of court and areas on the court. Now I'm going to end this video with a random note, and it was basically about the Joe Rogan Experience on Spotify. As of last checking up, it was a few days ago, he had 42 of his episodes removed from Spotify, and most of the episodes are episodes that include interviews with comedian Chris D and Proud Boys founder Gavin McInnes. They have been all removed, and if you were one of the people that was worried about Joe Rogan being exclusive to any platform, let alone Spotify, which over the past couple years has become quote-unquote woke progressive, this is exactly what you were worried about. And I'm going to get more so into this on some episode down the road, but it really gets into the concept of what do you value more? Do you value your freedom or do you value the money? At the end of the day, 100+ million is great, but if you're Joe Rogan, who legit from podcasting alone was making millions of dollars a year anyways, do you want to give up that much freedom just because you're getting that much more money? That's a valid question, and I hope to get into that on one of the next few episodes. So with that, like Daniel always does, the 5-finger Rhino thrust. Please like the video if you actually enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel. If you're subscribed, hit that bell so you get the notifications. Share the video to any and everyone. The main accounts are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, but we're working very quickly to get it on locals. And last but not least, comment on anything I said, anything I should have mentioned, even though this was supposed to be a quick episode, and just anything else that you might want to hear about from a sports perspective, a video game perspective, an overall entertainment perspective, maybe some science and random news, because yes, we have been lacking on that, but that is just comes down to a time perspective. With that being said, LLPH and Cadoodle.
Just a friendly reminder, guys, hit the subscribe button in this corner, and then for the newest video, then for the most recommended, and then for our famous dick pic,